What if the most dangerous person in your life isn't the one yelling in your face, but the one smiling while slowly pulling your strings? Evil doesn't always crash through your door with chaos and rage. Sometimes it sits beside you, kind, charming, and quietly calculating. You won't see it coming. That's the scariest part. It flatters you, helps you, even makes you feel safe until it owns you. Let's cut through the niceties for a moment. No filters, no sugarcoating, because real evil, it doesn't come with flaming eyes and pitchforks. It doesn't announce itself with thunder and screams. Sometimes it walks in with a gift in hand and your name on its lips. It could be your ever-smiling neighbor, the overly helpful friend who never misses a beat, or the co-worker who remembers your birthday just so they can cash in on your trust later. Satanic influence isn't just some Hollywood horror fantasy or a metaphor used in sermons. It's real, it's quiet, it's methodical, and worst of all, it's nice. Most people won't recognize it until it's too late. Why? Because it doesn't come roaring. It whispers, it charms, it flatters, it manipulates. It studies your kindness like a map and wears your trust like a perfect disguise. That's why, in this video, we're digging into 5 chilling signs that someone in your life might not just be toxic, but spiritually corrosive, steeped in something far darker than simple bad behavior. And no, you're not immune. Don't make the mistake of thinking this could never happen to you. It already has, 2 more people than you know. So before you click away or scroll past, do this: like, share, and subscribe if you're ready to choose truth over comfort, because the only thing worse than spotting these signs is never spotting them at all. If you're serious about protecting your peace, your mind, and your souls, stay with me to the end. Every warning I'm about to share is a trap you'll want to see before you walk into it. Let's start with the first sign: subtle manipulation and control. This isn't just basic guilt-tripping or passive-aggressive nonsense. This is a refined art, one of the oldest weapons in the human playbook. And in today's world, it's still one of the most silent and lethal forms of domination. Picture this: a sibling who always spins the story so that you end up apologizing no matter what. A boss who meets every one of your achievements with a guilt trip about how you could have stayed just a little longer. A partner who somehow makes their mistakes feel like they're your responsibility. These aren't harmless quirks. They're rehearsed, polished, intentional, and over time, they don't just affect your behavior, they reshape your identity. I once had a deep conversation with a friend about his father. The man never yelled, never raised a hand, but a single look of disappointment could freeze a room. No yelling, no threats, just a pause, a sigh, and a calm, soul-piercing, "I'm disappointed in you." As a child, my friend would scramble to make things right, even for tiny, meaningless mistakes. And even years later, as a grown man, he caught himself bending his life to earn that same approval, explaining himself too much, suppressing what he truly wanted, running from guilt that was never his to carry. That's the true danger of subtle control. It doesn't just nudge your actions, it molds your entire sense of self. It turns your conscience into a leash dot. And if you've ever felt like someone is managing your emotions while making you thank them for it, that's not just manipulation. That's the first sign of something far more sinister. Watch for it, recognize it, name it. Because the most dangerous control is the kind that makes you forget you're being controlled at all. Ready for sign number 2. Stay with me, this goes deeper than you think. And make no mistake, those who manipulate at this level don't look like villains. They don't carry darkness in their tone or wear malevolence on their sleeves. More often than not, they're charming, captivating. They know how to make you feel seen, heard, even admired. They'll praise your kindness, applaud your loyalty, compliment your dependability just enough to keep you hooked. But there's always a catch always. That praise, it slowly turns into a chain you won't even notice until it starts to tighten. Unlike healthy persuasion, which is rooted in shared goals, trust, or open dialogue, this kind of manipulation has a different mission entirely. It's not trying to find middle ground. It's not trying to understand you. It's trying to own you. They want access, not once, not occasionally, but permanent access to your decisions, your will, your energy. They don't want cooperation. They want compliance. And here's the darkest part: when you finally notice something feels wrong and you push back, even just a little, the mask falls. Suddenly, you're not loyal anymore. You're the ungrateful one, the selfish one, the one who changed. The very person who once flattered you will now gaslight you, flip the script, and accuse you of betrayal. They will weaponize your own empathy. And it works because it strikes at your core values, your sense of duty, your identity as a good person. But here's what Stoicism teaches us: something that becomes vital in moments like these. The only true domain we ever possess is our mind, our judgments, our choices. Everything else can be taken: money, health, possessions, but our reason is sacred. Epictetus used to remind his students, no one can take your reason unless you hand it over. And manipulation, it specializes in getting you to do just that. It doesn't barge in and break your logic, it slips beneath it. It creates doubt, seeds confusion. It whispers questions like, am I being too sensitive? Was that really unfair? Am I just imagining this? It makes you question the very instincts that were built to protect you. And once doubt sets in, they begin to tighten their grip. They'll exploit your sense of family, your urge to stay loyal, your longing to be seen as good. They'll twist your words, rewrite your memories. Slowly, they'll disconnect you from anyone who might remind you who you really are. You'll start hearing lines like, why do you listen to them? They don't know you like I do. They're just jealous. They're toxic. I'm the only one who truly cares about you. It's like pruning a tree, cutting off branch by branch until there's only one direction left for you to grow, toward them. When you think about it clearly, this isn't just manipulation, it fits perfectly with how the Stoics defined evil. Evil isn't always physical harm or cruelty. Evil is the deliberate corruption of reason. It's persuading someone to act against their better nature. And that's exactly what manipulation does. It gets you to betray yourself. I've seen it in families where one sibling drains another dry with guilt, time, money, and emotional labor. I've seen it in marriages where one partner walks on eggshells for years, thinking they're the problem. I've seen it in workplaces where managers hand out praise like bait, then load employees with impossible demands, knowing fear of disappointment will keep them grinding until they break. So how do you see it before it consumes you? Start by listening to your body. That tightness in your chest when someone corners you with an unfair request. That uneasy heaviness in your stomach when you hear certain phrases that feel wrong but you can't explain why. Those feelings matter. Your emotions are not your enemy. They are your alarm system. Don't dismiss them. Don't rationalize them. Away, examine them. Sit with them. Ask yourself, Who benefits if I ignore this discomfort? If you want to guard your mind and your freedom, you need to practice what the Stoics called prohairesis, the disciplined power of choice. That means pausing before reacting, seeing the situation clearly, what is really being asked of you. Why does this request honor your freedom, your boundaries, your self-respect? Or is it designed to make you doubt your own truth? Manipulators don't want clarity. They want confusion. They want speed because a flustered mind is easy to control. They want you apologizing, making amends, rearranging your life, before you've even understood the accusation. Your strongest shield is the ability to slow down, to not rush to respond, but to breathe and calmly ask, what exactly do you mean by that? And then observe. Watch how they react when you say, gently and without fear, I need to think about that. A sincere person will give you that space. They won't pressure you. But a manipulator, they'll grow uneasy. They'll try to rush your thinking, distort your clarity, or guilt you into moving faster. And that's the disturbing irony of these dark influences. They don't need black robes or ritual symbols. They just need you to forget that your mind belongs to you. That's all it takes. These forces thrive when you trade clarity for temporary comfort, when you feel the discomfort of saying no and back down. But that tension, that resistance, you feel it's not your weakness. It's your inner boundary trying to speak. Respect it, because if you can't say no, then your yes means nothing. And when someone steals your yes, they're not just taking your agreement, they're stealing your freedom of soul. That's why Stoicism isn't just some ancient idea in dusty books. It's armor. It trains you to know yourself so clearly that no one can sell you a version of you that feeds their hunger for control. Stay vigilant. Not every smile is sincere. Not every compliment is harmless and evil. It rarely shows you its teeth at the start. It flatters, it waits, and it hopes you forget that you always had a choice. Let's pick up where we left off. We just explored how some people twist virtue into a mask for manipulation. Now, let's look even deeper into how this mindset spreads and why it's so dangerous if we're not careful. Some people avoid responsibility by making exploitation look like a virtue. They distort language to suit their agenda. Authenticity becomes an excuse to be abusive. Enlightenment turns into a license to harm others without guilt and strength. It's redefined as cruelty, thinly disguised as brutal honesty. But this isn't a path to wisdom. It's a philosophical tricker, kind of sleight of hand, where rhetoric is used to justify harm. To the Stoics, this is a corruption of reason itself. The very thing that's meant to guide us toward virtue is being weaponized to justify vice. It's easy to brush this off as dark humor or just a passing trend. But here's the real danger: repetition. Human beings are social by nature. We absorb what we hear, especially when it's wrapped in cleverness or wit. Over time, if we keep hearing betrayal praised as cleverness or empathy mocked as weakness, we start to believe it. Bit by bit, it shifts the culture. We become more cynical, more accepting of cruelty dressed up as realism. Worse still, the people spreading this inversion of values often present themselves as deep thinkers or even spiritual teachers. They claim to rise above the simple morality that governs the rest of us. But look closely, and you'll see their so-called wisdom is hollow. True spiritual growth across nearly all traditions leads to greater humility and compassion. As Marcus Aurelius would say, it makes you a better citizen, a better friend, a better human being. But these false prophets trade humility for ego, connection for control. So how do you tell the difference? Start by looking at intent and emotional tone. Real questioning is curious, calm, and open to nuance. It seeks truth, but inversion. It's smug, mocking, and aimed at destruction, not understanding. It wants to tear down, not build up. It delights in making you feel foolish for believing in goodness at all. This is why the Stoics warned us to guard our judgments. Your ability to discern what is good, bad, helpful, or harmful, that's your final defense against being misled. Don't just listen to what someone says. Look at the results of their thinking. Does it make them kinder, more dependable, or does it give them permission to hurt, betray, and take without giving? This isn't about paranoia. It's about wisdom. As you get older, you'll see that human nature has both light and shadow. Some people truly want to heal and help. Others want to control, destroy, and consume, and they often hide it behind charm, intellect, or spiritual language. By learning to recognize this obsession with turning values upside down, you protect not only yourself, but also the people who look to you for strength. You will become someone who holds the line, who stays rooted even when the world tries to shake you. And most importantly, you keep your soul intact. In a world that sometimes rewards those who sell theirs piece by piece, integrity means holding on to your conscience, especially when it would be easier not to. The Stoics never promised us ease. They promised us meaning. And that begins by refusing to let anyone convince you that good is bad, that empathy is weakness, or that your sense of morality is naive. Because once you surrender that once you lose your moral compass, the battle is already lost. Tea doesn't always announce itself. In fact, it rarely does. Instead of shouting, it whispers. That's why it's so easy to miss if you're not paying close attention. It's the coworker who listens a little too intently when you speak about a loss. The friend who asks deeply personal questions not to support your healing, but to satisfy a hidden, darker curiosity inside them. On the surface, they seem concerned. But if you look closer, their eyes reveal something else entirely. A subtle eagerness, a quiet hunger. They lean in not to comfort you, but to keep you talking. Not to help you move forward, but to keep you stuck in your pain. This isn't about nervous laughter or the awkward smiles people give when they don't know what to say in difficult moments. That's just part of being human. We all fumble when faced with grief. But there's a big difference between innocent discomfort and someone who seems a bit too fascinated by your suffering. Someone who always brings the conversation back to your wounds, ensuring you stay there in the rawness of it all. From a psychological perspective, this behavior is a red flag. It signals a deeper fracture in their ability to empathize. Healthy people feel discomfort when others are in pain. Even when they don't know what to do, they might look away, offer support, or gently change the subject. That very discomfort is a sign of their empathy. It shows they recognize that pain should be soothed, not studied. But those with an unhealthy fascination for pathos, people don't flinch. They don't look away. Instead, they move closer, like moths to a flame. But unlike the moth, they don't get burned, they feed off it. They ask for more details than necessary. They linger on the ugliest moments. And worst of all, they might bring those stories up again and again long after you've moved on. Sometimes, They even reopen old wounds under the guise of checking in or being there for you. But their intent isn't healing, it's control. What makes it more disturbing is how they often present themselves: deeply empathetic, spiritual, or emotionally intuitive. They may claim to see the truth that others can't handle, but what they're actually doing is using your pain like a form of currency. It's not about helping you confront reality. It's about keeping you trapped in it because your suffering gives them a sense of significance, of power. In some darker philosophies, this fascination with pain is no accident. Certain belief systems glorify suffering, not as something to overcome, but as something to be praised. In these twisted views, pain becomes a source of power, not for the one experiencing it, but for the one who controls it. This is where Stoicism offers clarity. The Stoics understood that pain is inevitable, but to them, its value lies in what it reveals about us and how it can strengthen our character. They never sought suffering, nor did they romanticize it in others. For the Stoics, pain is something to endure with dignity, not something to inflict, not something to dwell in. And that distinction matters deeply. Someone who is truly wise or compassionate will ask about your pain. Yes, but only to help you understand it, process it, and move through it. They won't trap you in it. They won't keep you reliving it. They won't dig into your wounds just to see them bleed again. The danger of those who are drawn to suffering is that they often seem helpful at first. They ask thoughtful questions. They make you feel seen. But over time, something shifts. Your wounds stop healing around them. In fact, they stay open, and you start to feel strangely dependent on their attention, because no one else talks about your pain the way they do. That's not support. That's manipulation, and it's one of the most sinister forms of it, because it masks itself as care, while quietly ensuring that your vulnerability never really heals. To them, your pain isn't sacred, it's useful. It validates their worldview. It gives them something to feed on, a story to tell, a way to keep power over you. To protect yourself, you need to see it clearly, and be brutally honest about the pattern. And once you've learned how to stay silent in the face of manipulation, you begin to see clearly who truly cares him, who is merely feeding their sick curiosity by exploiting your pain. Have you ever felt worse after talking to someone, even though they seemed concerned for you? Did they help you move on, or did they keep dragging you back into your old wounds? Do they genuinely want to see you heal, or are they just obsessed with the painful details? Stoic philosophy would tell you this. Your pain belongs to you, it's yours to face, to understand, and to grow from. But it is not entertainment for others to consume. A true friend or a soulmate will treat your pain as something sacred. They will sit with you in your weakness, but they will also be the one who helps you rise again. They don't just watch you sink, hoping to have a story to tell someone else later. In the end, the line between empathy and exploitation lies in intention and outcome. Real empathy empowers you. Morbid curiosity over your suffering only leaves you more drained. And when you recognize this in someone, it's not the time to judge them, it's the time to protect yourself. Set boundaries. Don't feed them the details they crave. Redirect the conversation, and if necessary, walk away. Because the truth is, pain is a part of life, but suffering should never become someone else's form of entertainment. And anyone who treats it that way is showing you exactly who they are. Continuing the flow of the content. Hidden sign number 4. Symbols. Symbols have always held a mysterious power over the human mind. something that cultures throughout history have deeply understood. Long before written language became widespread, people were already reading meaning through sacred markings, symbols, and carvings on cave walls. These weren't just art, they were layered communication, transcending language and speaking directly to the subconscious. And it's precisely because of this ancient power that symbols become extremely dangerous when used with harmful intent. In today's world, we like to think we've outgrown such superstitious influence. We believe that living in the information age makes us immune to symbols. But the human mind hasn't changed. We still learn visually. We still respond to symbols even when we're not aware of it. This is exactly why hidden sign number 4 is so dangerous. It doesn't shout, it whispers. We're not talking about obvious pentagrams on altars or inverted crosses hanging on a stage. Ironically, such blatant imagery has less influence because people are aware of them and on guard. What's more concerning are the subtle variations hidden in plain sight, woven into everyday life. They've been modernized, refined to the point that almost no one recognizes their origins anymore. You might find them on t-shirts, jewelry, or even children's toys disguised under a sleek aesthetic, but rooted in ancient symbolic systems. I remember visiting a friend's home. She proudly showed me a hand-woven tapestry she bought at an art market. It was beautiful, intricate, and clearly made with skill. But as I looked closely, I noticed ancient symbols embedded in the pattern, symbols tied to esoteric rituals from centuries ago, and she had no idea. To her, it was just a decorative piece. She wasn't evil, she wasn't intentional, but that's where the danger lies. Symbols function whether or not you believe in them. They program the mind through repetition, creating familiarity till they're accepted without question. Visual cognition research confirms this. The human brain learns through exposure. Even if you consciously dismiss the meaning of a symbol, your subconscious still records it. That's why brands repeat their logos endlessly. Why politicians choose colors and visuals with mathematical precision. And why, in esoteric traditions, symbols aren't for decoration, they're tools. Those who dive deep into these darker philosophies, they understand this very well. They don't reveal themselves through obvious signs that would immediately raise alarms. Instead, they hide behind designs with plausible deniability. And when someone questions them, they brush it off as just a stylistic choice. But this very defensiveness, that's often a red flag. Pay attention to those who are oddly attached to certain symbols, who collect them obsessively, or grow irritated when asked about them. Stoic philosophy gives us a powerful lens to see through this fog. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, external things cannot harm us if our inner fortress remains strong. But he also understood that wisdom requires vigilance, the ability to recognize the nature of things, so we're not easily deceived. Epictetus taught that we can't control what happens around us, but we can control how we interpret it. That includes noticing what is being quietly fed into our subconscious. The real danger isn't that a symbol itself will magically harm you. The danger lies in how it creates an atmosphere where inversion becomes normalized, where ancient ideas of selfishness, cruelty, and moral distortion quietly weave into daily life. What once shocked us starts to feel normal. What was once taboo becomes edgy or ironic. And when you raise concerns, you're labeled paranoid or old-fashioned. Consider how some slogans and images that once stood for unity, sacrifice, or integrity are now twisted into their opposites. Words like freedom are used to justify exploitation. Symbols of light are tied to messages that promote narcissism. This isn't some cartoonish conspiracy theory. This is human psychology being turned against us by those who know exactly how to do it. I once spoke with an elderly manner, retired teacher, who told me he was unsettled by the new logo his former school had adopted. It was sleek, modern, and hailed as progressive. But when he traced its roots, he found it echoed a symbol used by an ancient cult obsessed with hierarchy and control. When he brought it up to the school board, they laughed it off as mere artistic inspiration. They couldn't see the issue because they didn't know the history, or maybe didn't want to. Now, the point isn't that every geometric pattern is evil that would be ridiculous. But when certain symbols begin clustering within subcultures, get aggressively pushed through fashion, and are marketed directly to the youngest and most impressionable minds, you're witnessing something deliberate. It's cultural engineering. Even if not everyone involved understands what they're perpetuating. A Stoic doesn't panic or demonize the unfamiliar. A Stoic sharpens perception and asks, why this symbol? Why now? Who gains from normalizing it? And when you see someone repeatedly drawn to these images defensive about their meanings, while also displaying other signs we've discussed, subtle manipulation, inverted values, glorification of suffering, it's time to pay attention, because symbols don't lie them. If the people using them do, they communicate a worldview. They quietly reshape expectations. They bend the moral compass of entire communities. If you want to stay mentally free, learn to read the signs, not just in words, but in images. Be mindful of what you welcome into your home, your wardrobe, your media. Develop that Stoic clarity that sees things for what they are, not what they pretend to be. Because recognizing the hidden language of symbols isn't paranoia. It's wisdom, and in a world built on your passive acceptance, wisdom is the one shield no one can strip from you. Pause and reflect for a moment. Throughout history, many who claimed to be spiritually awakened were the very ones who needed to be examined most carefully. They weren't loud or aggressive manipulators, threatening or insulting others into submission. Instead, they cloaked their true intentions in soft, seductive language words like enlightenment, self-actualization, and liberation. But if you look closely, one truth becomes clear. What they call freedom is actually freedom from responsibility. And the truth they preach is merely whatever serves their ego. They don't just share spiritual ideas, they appoint themselves as the only ones capable of interpreting them. They create a mystique that convinces others that only they can truly see the world for what it is. They promise to help you break free from society's chains. But what they're really doing is encouraging you to abandon the foundational values that keep human society functioning: compassion, honesty, and humility. To them, these virtues are tools of control. A Stoic would see this as one of the worst forms of false wisdom, philosophy not aimed at self-mastery, but at justifying selfishness. Pay attention to how they speak. Their language is carefully chosen words that sound awakened, even transcendent. But instead of empathy, the result is arrogance. They talk about escaping the programming, but what they truly reject is any responsibility to others. They speak of truth, but only acknowledge what flatters their own perspective. True philosophy, especially Stoicism, teaches us to examine ourselves harshly, to master destructive impulses, and to live in harmony with others. Fake spirituality, on the other hand, demands no discipline at all. That's exactly what makes it so tempting. Who wouldn't want to believe they're special, more awakened than the average person? These spiritual imposters know they're tanned, they exploit it fully. They'll flatter you, praise your intuition, tell you that you're not like the sheep out there, that they see potential in you that others are too blind to recognize. Flattery is the easiest way to control people. Marcus Aurelius warned, "Be wary of those who praise too quickly. They usually want something from you." Then comes another dangerous phenomenon, a deliberate inversion of values. While true spiritual growth leads to humility and service to others, the counterfeit path leads to isolation and superiority. You'll see it when someone dismisses compassion as naive or calls morality outdated. They claim empathy is weakness, and caring for others only slows you down. They turn selfishness into enlightenment. But the Stoic knows, true wisdom makes you more humane, not less. It softens the ego, it doesn't harden it. It teaches that duty to others is not a chain, but the foundation of a meaningful life. Seneca once wrote, "No one can live happily who lives only for themselves and turns everything into a means to their own ends." You must live for others if you want to live for yourself. Yet the spiritual imposter twists this. They speak of liberation, but it's liberation from every standard except their own. They redefine morality as a cage and tell you that to be truly free, you must escape all responsibility. This is not awakening. This is a disguise. And if you're not alert, you'll lose yourself in the very ego they've polished for you. Those who follow such individuals often end up isolated, detached from meaningful relationships, convinced that the world is too blind or too corrupt to ever understand them. But here's a question worth asking. When someone claims spiritual authority, what exactly are they encouraging? Do they urge you to examine yourself with honesty, or do they demand blind loyalty? Do they help you grow in your ability to care deeply for others, or do they convince you that people are obstacles to your power? Do they teach you humility, or do they parade arrogance as enlightenment? According to the Stoics, you don't judge a philosophy by how poetic its words sound. You judge it by the kind of person it helps you become. A real teacher doesn't make you dependent on their voice. They hand you the tools to listen to your own soul. They don't promise secret knowledge that makes you superior. They offer timeless wisdom that deepens your connection with others. They don't turn disagreement into war. They help you understand those who differ from you. Because when so-called enlightenment makes someone more arrogant, more dismissive, more controlling, that's not awakening. That's ego dressed up in spiritual language. That's not freedom. That's just pride wearing a mask. And it's no coincidence that this final sign ties all the others together. The manipulation is dressed as awakening. The distortion of values is framed as moral transcendence. Even the obsession with suffering is sold as some harsh but necessary truth. Symbols once considered dark are rebranded as mystical secrets only the chosen can understand. But the Stoic response cuts through all that noise. Don't just listen to the words, look at the fruits. Does this path make you more kind, more patient, more resilient, more just? If not, it's a counterfeit no matter how sophisticated it sounds. Because real growth expands your humanity. The fake kind, it shrinks you to fit inside your ego. Recognizing this difference isn't just wise, it's necessary if you want to live free and whole. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. You're officially harder to fool. We've just uncovered 5 chilling signs that someone in your life might be under subtle, dark influence. And let's be honest, after this, you'll never look at manipulation, twisted values, or cryptic symbols the same way again. good, that's not paranoia, that's clarity. And in a world where darkness often smiles first, you owe it to yourself to see it clearly. You don't need to fight or play the hero. Just recognize the signs, set immovable boundaries, and if needed, walk away like your peace depends on it, because it does. If this video gave you an aha moment, or just made your skin crawl in all the right ways, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a wake-up call, and subscribe. For more uncomfortable truths most people won't say out loud, stay sharp, stay guarded. And remember, in a world full of charming liars, your intuition is your oldest, wisest friend. Listen to it.